This is Critical Nonsense, our high-lowbrow show about culture, science, and tech. This week, Joey asks me about medical experiments.
Woo! Everybody wants to rule the podcast. This is what a Joey sounds like. And this is what an executive producer and single tear for fear, Jess Vander, sounds like.
Hi, this is Jess.
I think that's Tears for Fears. Who knows?
Yeah. Do.
Jess,
Yeah.
I have a important question for you.
Okay.
I read a recent article that was getting shared around the internet a little bit. It was in a Substack called Vector Culture.
No, I don't like that.
You don't like it?
Sounds like a weird yogurt.
A weird yogurt? A geometric yogurt?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Where's the yeast?
This introducing the new Vector Culture, 5 times as proteinated as Greek yogurt. It's a brick, actually. It's a brick of dairy.
Is that in the same vein as, like, you remember when Brogurt was a thing where they were making like super protein yogurt with like bull horns on the yeah.
Was it in like a squeezable tube?
It was just in like a regular cup, but it was just like yogurt.
Yogurt for men.
So this article that was being shared around, it was titled "Not for Human Consumption," and this person was talking about. Here's the subhead. Gray market peptides have built a parallel pharmaceutical infrastructure under the thinnest regulatory pretense. The data reveals a cultural contradiction that extends far beyond weight loss. The article goes on to discuss the culture that is emerging within broadly Silicon Valley, definitely not exclusive to Silicon Valley, but I think that's where this person who wrote the article is coming from. They say, in very obvious, read between the lines ways that I'm not doing this. This is about someone other than me, but it's clearly about them doing it. But there are Chinese peptide raves and all of these people sort of experimenting with taking different Chinese peptides. They're calling them Chinese peptides because these are coming from labs in China that are producing things that are not FDA approved for human consumption in the US. For those unfamiliar, peptides in this case is referring to certain molecules like Ozempic or Mounjaro. Did I say it right? Mounjaro. And some of those other GLP-1 drugs, which are a peptide that is having, incredible effects on people's ability to lose weight and manage things like diabetes and heart disease and all of those things. But these additional peptides, outside of potentially them taking some of those drugs from extra legal sources, let's say, they're also experimenting with a number of other peptides, things that are helping in hormone regulation or in like tendon health and all of these other things. And so my question for you, as these people are going through all of these experiments and running lab tests and biohacking and turning their bodies into experiments, is how far would you be willing to go to experiment with your health?
Whoa. Not this far, maybe. Maybe personally.
If we're drawing a line, it's behind that.
It's behind someone else who tried it first. It's like the running from the bear thing. It's like, so long as you're faster than the person behind you.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, but it is a really interesting thing. Also, I'm just refreshing all of my high school science brain memory about peptides, short chains of amino acids, the building blocks of proteins, like the pre-proteins. You need it for body stuff. So That's a helpful start.
Yeah.
And also, what is driving us to be so willing and eager to do such experimenting feels like the operative question. What would drive one to do such things?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably like a number of things happening. Like I think some are cultural, right? And I think others are um sort of the democratization and shift in orientation that people have had with their own health is probably another. I think from a cultural side, when you're thinking about Silicon Valley and the hacker culture and things like that, this sort of leap to trying to hack your own body, while maybe for many feels like a pretty big leap for these people that are sort of trying to hack with computer systems and invent new things. And I think the way that they might talk about it in other things is like finding alpha, in the way that like finance and tech people talk about things, of like finding an advantage where one doesn't exist, and min-maxing and maximizing all of that. Like these folks are thinking about a lot of the world that way because that's the culture of their work. And so all of a sudden it's just like a new frontier. Do those same things with your body, you know?
Well, and it's also how that aligns to sort of like a new frontier of like the political phenomenon of like challenging the institutional status quo that I feel like historically had kind of left science alone. Of like, science, the whole point is that it's institutional and slow and steady, and that's kind of the thing. And like we left science alone, and then some people could argue the precise moment it happened, but sometime in the last 20 years when we were like, I guess, culturally starting to question science, it was like, let's bring this into the ring. Like,
Yeah.
what if some people think that actually we can topple some of those things, which on one hand is, you have to look at the bright side in the scientific realm of like exciting to have energy, attention, breaking stuff and trying things. And on the other hand, it's like, yes, but not all of these things can happen in the same satisfying, quick turnaround cycle. That's kind of the whole point, is like, we have to make sure we're learning from our mistakes and hopefully also not harming too many people as we are attempting to make those experiments, because it could have disastrous effects. And there's a reason we don't all do this at the same time. There's a reason that some small subset of people may be volunteering, and I might wait a little bit personally.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, one of the things that came out of last year's presidential election cycle was sort of, I think, a broader national awareness potentially of the fact that Silicon Valley has a libertarian streak running through it in a large capacity, of like deregulation, let me make my own decisions, all of that. And I think this is a representation of that. Their orientation to this, at least from this article and reading between the lines and some of what is shared, is it's my body. Like, let me do, if I want to put these peptides in my body, like I'm going to experiment on myself. It's not harming anyone but me. And so it sort of fits in that kind of libertarian idea that has emerged around sort of engineering culture in the Bay Area potentially. And maybe more broadly than that, maybe that is sort of an endemic thing to engineering. I can't say one way or the other, but it definitely has shown up in the broader Silicon Valley, like VC culture, engineering culture, all of that. And so these people are saying like, great, I'm doing this. There has been a democratization of lab testing that I can do on myself. In this article, they're sharing like, these are places where you can just like get an order, send in your samples of your blood or whatever, and they will do a full diagnostic, like Quest diagnostics and things like that. And so part of me is like, I guess if they want to experiment, I don't know that I have a problem with it, but I don't think I want to be putting these untested things in my own body, to your point. But you're seeing, before we were jumping on, Alex was bringing up Bryan Johnson, the sort of founder and 100 million or billionaire, I'm not sure exactly what his net worth is, who has dedicated the past, I don't know, 5 to 10 years of like fully guinea pigging himself in like some pretty extreme ways with the pursuit of like extreme longevity. And so it clearly is more than just like a brand new emergent trend.
Yeah. Well, and also I think it's interesting you're talking about like one cultural sort of wind around Silicon Valley libertarianism. I think another realization, for maybe at the mass scale, for many on the individual scale, it's been a long time coming, but like the historically understudied scientific emphasis on women, and especially like from pregnant to just menopausal women and older women in general, and how there are huge gaps in science there. And it's interesting to see the pendulum swing of like now, you hear one thing about hormone replacement therapy and everyone's like, it's a panacea. Like we're going to race to go, like, look, it's so exciting and promising. But like, there's the challenges too with the speed of that processes like this, of where, maybe what starts in a small group, there's just such an appetite to find solutions that the speed of solving those problems can also be risky for many people, like underappreciating the risks of having, high levels of hormones your body isn't used to. Like, I don't know a lot about this, but in like some talks with some doctors I know, like estrogen seems largely a great idea. Testosterone, like we still have a lot of things we need to learn about. And this is only one of like a much more complicated emerging area of science. And it's just interesting how the sort of cultural winds start to tip those scales, or we start like overreacting. I mean, this has been an issue in nutritional science for so long. How could we not talk about the inverted food pyramid that RFK is peddling, right? It's like the sort of like, and this is the new ways. Like, yes, but haven't we learned that isn't really how science works? Like that we completely change our paradigm of a thing, and for sure it is gospel and it is the way. Like, that's not how this goes.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting in sort of like our inverse polarity principle that we had spoken about many years ago, where you are simultaneously having sort of this RFK uptick in anti-vax movement while simultaneously having this other group of people who are sort of extreme in the opposite direction. But I think one of the points you brought up around risk is really interesting as it relates to this culture, because gambling and like extreme risk profile within the business sector of Silicon Valley, of like doing a startup, taking a chance, like in quotes, like being in the arena, doing things, like all those ideas are about sort of taking extreme risks through the lens for them often of things like expected value, of like, this may be an extreme risk, but the expected value of that risk may be so great. And so in a risk you might take in a business setting, it is like with the hope that you will, 100x your investment as a business or something like that. In this case, I think it is sort of similar of them saying, looking for that risk that might transform your personal like lived experience inside your body, of like, if I do this thing, you'll get like the limitless pill. Like there was this old meme, and I can't remember the source of it, but it was basically like, I have this fantasy where I'm walking around the city and someone says like, oh, you're deficient in this like one regular thing that you like, vitamin K, that you could get from anywhere, and I like supplement vitamin K, and all of a sudden I become a superhero. like it's I think it's like that min-maxing thing of like, I take this one peptide and all of a sudden I'm an Olympic athlete, or I'm like highly productive, or whatever it is. It is just trying to like eke out all the edges in all the corners.
And why wouldn't we? This is the superhero origin story narrative, Joey. This is where it's like, yes, and then I got bit by one spider.
Yeah. I took this one peptide and
I
was sexually desirable and so smart and
yeah, which not to minimize people's individual positive experiences with trying new, and experimental things in medicine. It's more just like isn't the whole premise that we have to figure out what works for most people? It's like the wire cutter of health solutions, which is like you can't just have like a really hyper specialized case. It needs to be like the mattress that works for most people. It's like it needs to be like the medicine that works for most people, because it's not cool if it works for 3 people and kills every 4. Like that doesn't do it.
Yeah.
What do I know? Like there's a reason I didn't end up in this field. Like there are people far smarter than I trying to work on some of these questions. But I think what is interesting is that there are people like me who are like, I've got it.
Yeah.
Or like you're chit-chatting with AI and I'm like, okay, just be really careful though. Just take care.
Well, I mean, this is also like an extreme version of like do your own research in quotes thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the expectation of domain transference of like, I'm an incredible computer engineer, so obviously I would also be an incredible doctor. I just have to like read a few articles and then all of a sudden I can have the same level of expertise in this arena that someone studied for 12 years to be able to do scientific research in, even though I read like 4 articles and have a degree from Stanford in computer science.
Yeah, but and again, I can constantly trying to like play devil's advocate for myself, but like by comparison, say like in the music industry where it's like, sure, you don't need to have toiled away practicing cello for 12 years to be able to manipulate some tools and come up with a concerto. Like you could do it this afternoon. And so it is like a really confusing and weird time for this space where it's like, well, but what, like, couldn't I? Like, what if I could become just as smart? Like, I can totally see how that happens.
Yeah. And by the way, like, I'm not immune to this behavior broadly. This is sort of like,
in fact, a you thing.
Yeah. This is just,
guys, I listened to this thing.
Yeah. This is just like an extreme end of that, right? Where like, as I'm aging, I'm like reading up on science to try and be like, well, like actually I should be taking creatine for all of these reasons, or in activity recovery, magnesium is useful, and by my age there's a high likelihood that I'll be magnesium deficient, so I'm doing versions of that thing myself. I am not outside of this type of behavior, nor do I think most people are these days, right? Like it's a question of degrees, but then this idea of an openness and a willingness based on the democratization of certain tools and information to take it to extreme ends is really interesting. And you see it in people like sports science or training or things like that. It's certainly happening as well. And it's an interesting dynamic where people are feeling liberated enough to take some not insignificant chances with their own health, which is really interesting.
Yeah, that is. Well, we'll see.
Do you want to go to like a peptide rave with me?
Oh God,
I super don't want
the sound of that.
I don't want to go to that. Do you want to take us to our peptide corner?
Peptide corner. Do chains make corners, or they're just full of them?
Real quick, are you biohacking in any way? Like any like quantified self, blah blah, like any of that stuff? Is there?
This is like the opposite of me. I am I am not known for this, but if I were known, I would be notorious for being so unaware of these things. If anything, I should probably pay more attention. And I think those that do pay more attention to their corpuses.
The closest you've got is like starting running.
Yeah, exactly. Right. A modest amount of
exercise.
regular exercise.
I heard this
Does that count?
exercise thing is good for you.
I heard that is good. I heard like pretty robust evidence on that one. So I'm thinking about it. Does that count?
You're a biohacking laggard.
Yeah, people are trying some weird stuff, and we are about to see what happens. I, as part of my wrap-up corner, would actually like to pose the question to our listeners of the last time that you tried something weird and different and accept whatever those consequences are. For me, though I can't describe it as biohacking, and this is completely unrelated except for in that way, trying a new type of salt because they ran out of the salt that I normally get at the store, and I shifted my brand loyalty. It changed everything. I was a Morton girl and I was wrong. It's all about that diamond crystal, and I know
diamond crystals,
that might change that. I mean, some people might be rage quitting this podcast right now because of that. But look, sometimes you try a thing and you learn something new. And then sometimes they are out of stock of diamond crystal. And then you get Morton again and you're like, oh no, this doesn't work. And why is this so salty now? And anyway, so yeah, that whatever that does for you.
Go inject weird things into your body.
No, I don't think we're saying
that's
that.
not it.
These are not endorsed. These opinions are Joey's own. And
this is not medical advice. Yeah.
This is not medical advice. Content warning. None of these opinions are shared by Sylvain, the company, and have everything to do with the nonsense critically thought through in the duration of this podcast. Thank you so much for listening.
Critical Nonsense is a Sylvain production.
Brought to you by science. It's cool.
As always, we'd like to thank our programming. No, we wouldn't.
Nope.
We'd like to thank our executive
Not yet.
producer and guinea pig, Jess Vander.
Thanks. We'd also like to thank sound engineer and the science, Alex Contell.
We'd like to thank our programming coordinator and lab rat, Les Jacobs.
And thank you to our production crew, and they're known for their extreme risk profiles. Sarah Gilbert, Nora Mestridge, Christy Jensen, Amanda Medina, and Amy Waters.
And as always, thanks, Elen.
Thanks.
Special thanks, syringes.
Oh, you ever heard of Solid Wiggles?
Nope.
They're the artful Jello company. I may or may not have mentioned them before, but they use syringes to inject Jello into Jello to make these spectacular designs, and it's just a very remarkable art form I did not know was possible. So that's a thing that a needle can do. You know what else? Special thanks, apparently, to sewing, because the people are into that, and needles are used in that.
Sewing? What's with that?
Sewing? What up with that?
Special thanks to people who write stories. I've been in like a little anime kick because I watched an anime on a plane, and
you would. And
now I'm like, it was on the in-flight entertainment, and then now here I am.
Now you were entertained.
I was entertained. I was like, what's going on in this world? What are people up to? Now I know.
What up with this?
Now I know.
Now you're like, anime is good.
Yeah, it's just a flight of fancy, a season, but here we are.
Yeah, storytelling is not easy. Thanks to our local newscasters who are out there trying to tell us what we need to know. I just was thinking about that the other day. Like, man, they're out here.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I saw a funny post from a local newscaster reading rude tweets and comments at her. She was just like over a period of time, just like reading them like they were the news with like such a good sense of humor. And I was like, I see you. Way to take the reins from these trolls. Good work.
Way to take the reins. Yeah. It's not easy. The trolls are powerful.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks to New Year's.
So random. All right.
All right, love you, mean it.
Bye.
Bye.